So the thought for today is this, and this is such a big conversation that I'm going to do my best to do it in this conversation. And if I need to expand, I will. So the idea here is, thought for the day is need versus quantum leap. Need versus quantum leap. So let's talk about the etiology of this conversation. So when you look at, so the first thing I want you to understand, and I really need you to let this land, like I'm not just trying to give you like a pat on the back and like, you know me, I'm always going to dish out the truth from a loving place. What you're all doing here is so rare. It's so rare. What do I mean? We have 7.8 billion people on this planet and counting. To be in what we call the 3% of the population, you are making $100,000 or more a year, puts you in the 3% of the population. 1 million puts you at 1% of the population. Just get some perspective. More people live in ghettos in the world per capita than they live the way that you live. Why am I telling you this? Because we live as in the North American, like whether you live in North America or a first world country. And the fact that you're in this Zoom room and you have a computer and you have the money to be here, you need to understand that we in North America and in the first world countries, we live under what we call a success illusion. What is a success illusion? We think that there are a lot of really successful people out in the world because we're looking at people like us and mentors. But what you actually don't understand, there's more people living in ghettos and more people fighting for their survival than there are people who are successful. I tell you this because you need to sometimes get perspective. Anyone here need some perspective in their life? Come on, raise your hand. I know, hello, I'm looking at you. Y'all need some perspective. Perspective is the greatest thing ever. When I looked at that statistic, like I'm in the 1%. The 1%. You're in at least the 3 or 4% because you're here. Most people, if you travel the world, live in ghettos. Most people are under the poverty line. The middle class, get this, to be considered the middle class, sorry, I just got hot and had to take my shirt off. To be considered in the middle class, you have to make $14,000 to $20,000 a year or more. That's the middle class. Yeah, that's right, Siobhan, that's right. So when you do your victim thing in your own mind and how bad your life is or the woes of the day, and I'm not taking away from that is your experience and it's true for you. But the greatest thing that you can ever give yourself is real perspective of what's going on a macro level around you. The 1% is a small fucking category of people. And so when I say what you're doing is rare, I don't just mean the money that you're going to make or you're already making or you're on the way to making. Inevitably, being in this work, you will, of course, make that money. There's no way you won't. If you're calibrated to my energy as I grow, there's no way you won't. But it's even working on your mindset. It's working on how can I be better? You're showing up here every day going, I want to be better. Yeah? You're not showing up here going, how can I be worse today? So I want this perspective to land for you from an empowering context because I still see a lot of the same stuff sometimes happening where, and we're all victim to this because it is actually called, the paradigm is called the success illusion. Write that down. The success illusion has you look at that you think there's a lot of really successful people out there. If you're making $1 million or more, you're the 1%. If you're making 100,000 or more, you're the 3%. There are 7.8 billion fucking people on this planet. And you are the 1 to 3% of people. Let that land for you today. Is that landing for you today? Let's add to this. So why am I going on about this? I'm going on about this Don't worry, there's a point somewhere in my notes. Hopefully we get there. So the point of this is this. Most of us grew up in the working middle class, our families. Now, when I say the working or middle class mindset, it's not derogatory. So don't hear any derogatory. It's just a fact in terms of if your parents worked for somebody else, they're the working class. Does this make sense to you? So if they were employed by somebody else, they were the working class. Even if they were a professional, like a doctor or a lawyer, if they worked for somebody else, they were kind of the middle to working upper middle class. But they're in that bracket, here's what's important, of safety. Being employed by someone else kept them safe. Yes? If your parents were entrepreneurs, okay, then they had a little bit of a different mindset depending on their success as an entrepreneur. Why is this important? Because if you grew up anything like me, even though my mom was a dentist and my dad, they had good professional jobs, they were professionals, the idea, the mindset was still don't take too many risks, don't ever have any debt, don't spend more than you need, don't take more than you need. Anyone hear this growing up? Do you need that? Do you need that? Do you need that? Do you know how imprinted need is in your psychology? You all operate inside of your need. Raise your hand if this is making sense. Need, 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 need. Needy, 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 needy. Yeah? How many parents, God bless their cotton socks, how many of your parents were like, go for your dreams and your desires are unlimited and your possibilities are this and risk everything and try it on and do this and don't worry about making mistakes? No, no. We're not yet, see, our generation is interesting. Our children might say that. See, my son, I hope one day says, my mom told me to go for what I really desired in my life. But that's because I'm doing the work. See, my parents, God bless them, they weren't doing the work. So they were just protecting me. And how many years of protection go on beyond that? Think about your ancestors. How many need like lines are there to overcome? How many people have told you not to take risks in your life? A lot. I see how some of you still navigate making decisions. Think about it. How do you navigate making decisions in your life still? Overthinking, worried about making a mistake, not willing to risk, needing to be safe. Yes, yes. Anyone here? Okay. So all that tells me, and it's not, you're not doing anything wrong. So never hear any of this as I'm bad and wrong, I'm doing it wrong. No, you're doing it based on your psychology. You're doing it based on the genetic, spiritual imprints and codes that you've been carrying down. You're doing it based on what you were taught. You're doing it based on that your psychology always wants to keep you safe and the same. You're doing it based on the subconscious mind is always trying to keep you in the exact same place because that's what it deems as keeping you safe. So it's even going to block awareness about what the next step will be. So we go into confusion. We talked about yesterday, which voice in your head are you listening to? It's so hard to discern the voice of the intuition. Why? Because you've got this voice screaming in your head saying, that's too risky. How much is it going to cost? Da, 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 da. Like you go into this crazy conversation in your mind. Yes? So what's the point in this? How many of you here feel, be honest, that you're making incremental gains towards your goals, but you're not making the quantum leap that you desire? Raise your hand. So you're making incremental gains, but you're not making the quantum leap. Okay, most people. Okay, cool. Anyone here feel like they are making the quantum leap? So in some areas, yeah. So we don't want to start going into rationalizing and making ourselves feel like it's just a yes or no conversation, okay? So are you making a quantum leap in the area you want to be making a quantum leap in? Yes or no? That's really the question. And the more humility you can have about that, the better it is. Meaning, can I see the results in your bank account? If I were to look at your bank account from month to month, what is a quantum leap? 5K to 15K, 15K to 30K, 30K to 60K, 60K to 100K. That's a quantum leap. If we're just going to get numbers focused, because it's the easiest thing to conceptualize. Quantum leap is also shedding a certain amount of weight in a certain amount of time. A quantum leap is, you know, finding your love in a certain, like, it's a tangible thing. Who wants to have a quantum leap in the area that they say they want to have a quantum leap in? What is this? What is this? Seriously, like, that energy alone is not going to provide a quantum fucking leap. What is this? It's like the hand is moving so slowly over the computer. How you do everything is anything is how you do everything. I know you've heard me say it, but I'm telling you, this in and of itself is the quantum leap. Why are you not jumping out of your chair and having your hands up over your head and putting your leg up and doing all the, like, your energy about this conversation tells me more about this conversation than the conversation. Some of you need to be jumping so far out of your chair, you're like, I'm so ready for the quantum fucking leap. Where is it? Okay, now that we're here, everyone's ready. Good. I defibrillated you this morning. Good. So let me tell you why you're not having the quantum leap first, and then I'm going to tell you how you can. But I'm going to give you a disclaimer. This is like on the cigarette package when they say smoking causes cancer, and they put a lungs on there that, and you're like, well, I'm going to smoke, but this might cause cancer. So this is one of those smoking could cause cancer conversations. I am not, what I am going to tell you here is so cutting edge about this, and not everybody is going to be ready to do it. So don't make yourself wrong if you're not. I would rather you be honest with yourself, because if you try to do it halfway with excuses, it'll be worse for you. Does this make sense? So I'm not going to tell you to do it. I'm not telling you who should do it. I'm going to tell you the facts, and then you decide if you're going to do it. Got that? Okay. This is specifically around money and money goals, okay? The reason why most people never have a quantum leap and they only make incremental gains. Let me clarify what incremental is, because I want to be like so crystal clear, it's like there's no confusion. Incremental is, last month I made 5K, this month I made 6K, then I made 7K, and then I made 8K, and that is an incremental. So it's a gain, but it's incremental. A quantum leap is like it's like a 2 to 3 to 4 times. It's not even 2. It could be doubling, but quantum leap is typically more in a tripling kind of idea. Okay? Is that clear so far? Okay. Why most people in their life, and why I say what you're doing here is so rare, and I hope that this gives it another vantage point, is that so everybody can incrementally gain. You just work a little bit harder. This is not like rocket science. You don't need to be here to be doing that, to be honest. So if you're just making incremental gains forever, there's no point, because you don't need to be doing anything differently. You could just be working harder, work an extra few hours a week, and you'll make incremental gains. But this is not the point of the quantum leap. U squared says what? The quantum leap is something outside of that idea. It is not working harder, it's working smarter. It's actually the harder you work, the less you're likely to have the quantum leap. It's the complete opposite paradigm. But we hear that and we still like don't really understand. Why most people never hit the quantum leap is because they never have a breakthrough around their need line. Write that down. They don't have a breakthrough around their need line. So in my money course, for those of you who have done it or you've seen me talk about this, I talk about financial set points, and I talk about the need line. And the need line is in between your wealth line and your poverty line. Now, all of you live inside of your need line because you have your needs met. How do I know? You're not living on the street. You're not in a ghetto. You have food and water to drink. So your basic needs for survival are met. Raise your hand if that makes sense to you. So you're really good at living at your need line. Where is the need line rooted in the psychology? Put it in the chat if you have the answer to that question. Where is the need line like rooted in your psychology? Middle class mindset, yeah, very good. Scarcity, lack, yeah, lack, safety, that's right. So it's rooted in safety. Your parents did a really good job of giving you what you needed. And they fulfilled on what they needed. And so we don't have, most of us, an imprint or a blueprint for desire. We in our psychology are always worried about just getting our needs met. Okay, so here's what I mean by this. And this is interesting. So the need is about survival. So think about it this way. if you just are worried about getting your needs met, and you can get your needs met. So for example, you have a roof over your head, you can pay the rent every month, you got food on the table, you know, your kids are okay, like everyone's fine. It's kind of good enough. You're just good. Do you have the drive to go to the next level? And the answer for most people is not really. Does this make sense? Is what I'm saying making sense today? Because it's a big conversation. So the drive is not there for most people. I can see it. I can see that you're just hanging out in your need line because the drive is not there, because you don't really need more. You're okay. You're not on the street. The creditors aren't coming after you. Your kids are fine. You have food. You can buy a couple things from Walmart. Like, you're good. Like, if you don't, so there isn't that internal intrinsic motivation to go for more. Raise your hand if you can see yourself in that. This is not about judging or condemning yourself. This is understanding your psychology. So how do we break through? How do we break through the need line? This is what you need to be asking yourself. So everybody listen with your ears and your nose and your hair and your eyeballs, and don't do this with your pen, like kind of scared of showing up. Like, be fully present when I tell you this. The thing is, the truth will set you free. Pretending it's not you is not going to set you free. All of us are here on some level. What do I mean by that? I'm even here with my own need line. Do I need more than this many millions of dollars? Like, we do it at every level, guys. So this is all of us, because every quantum leap is going to ask you to push your need line up. Every leap causes you to push that ceiling up, every level. How do you increase the need line? Write this down. You increase the commitment to push past the need line in order to honor the commitment. Let's say it again. You increase the commitment to push past the need line to honor the commitment.